do this. Today we're going to be reviewing for the final AP US exam tomorrow. Pretty big. Um, if you have any comments to tell me, just put them right down and I'll see them pop up. Make sure to share the video. Get as many people to review with me as possible. And if you have any suggestions, just let me know. I'll try to incorporate it in our video. I'm just going to check to see if the cam is working. All right. Yep, and that's all set. So without further ado, we can now get started. So if you do look at the review sheet that I posted before, you'll see that we're breaking it up into different time periods. There are 8 periods, and the first one is around the 1400s all the way up to the 1600s, and the second one is the colonial period. So we're going to jump right into the colonial period. So the late 1600s and like 1700s, a lot of there's a mass migration to England from America. Now, there were a lot of colonies in England, and there were a lot of reasons to leave America, such as the population in America. It was really overcrowding, and there was just a lot of like religious prosecution in America, so they decided to move to England. So the first main region that we're gonna really have to know about in England is the Cheesecake region, and in the Cheesecake region there's Virginia and Maryland, and with that there were Wall Street joint stock companies, and these were very high risk. So that's how mainly people got to start with the money there in the situation. It was risky business, but a lot of them got through, and that's how they made it big. So Captain Joe Smith, we all know the story with Sacagawea, and he was an English investor who came to England from America, and just the main importance with him was his friend Joe Wolfe, and he grew the, in quotations, stinking weed. Now that's not clear defined on what the stinking weed is, but I'm going to leave that open to interpretation. Continuing with the Cheesecake region, the main labor force was these indentured servants, and with the indentured servants, I just got a comment from Liam Fish. He said that he's discrediting my accountability, but this is all a combination of the textbook, keynotes, and notes I took, and a review book. So I can assure you that all this information is highly credible. I'm going to continue going on. Once again, if there's any helpful suggestions, not trying to discredit my accountability, I'd really appreciate that. Another comment that I just got from a Jimmy Twist is, this guy hasn't even downloaded Boyer. That's not entirely true. I do have the book downloaded. If we just want to very quickly just look, and we can see that that is Boyer. That's where I'm getting a majority of my information. I'm just trying to condense it down for everyone, and we're gonna just try to move and push through this. I also got another comment saying that it was Photoshop and that I need to get help from Schreiber. I'm just gonna now ignore these because they're rude. So big guy in this time period is Nathaniel Turkey Bacon, and with Turkey Bacon, he had the rebellion in Virginia, and with the Blue Springs faction that was under Governor Berkeley, and basically Bacon wanted to rebel against these New England colonies, and it led to Indian raids and all ton of chaos. So that was put down by the National Army eventually. But that's just a big step, knowing that Bacon tried to rebel. He was trying to go against the societal norms. He was actually a Mormon, and that's one of the main reasons that he tried to revolt. Now let's move on to the Old England region. Now this can get a little confusing because it is England, but we're moving to New England from America, so technically it's Old England turning into New England. So a way you can memorize that is here, let me write it out for you. Oh, this pen doesn't work. Here we go. I finally found a pen that works. Okay, so if you remember it, old, England. See, I wrote old and then England on there. So I think that's a really good way of memorizing it. You should have that down by now, but if you still don't, that's just a way to remember it. Old England goes with the old England, the new England goes with the new England. With this new Old England area, again, if you need some clarification, I can go through that again, but we're going to move on to the Puritans, and why they're called the Puritans is that they were very free-minded. They were almost the first kind of hippies, if you want to describe them. John Winthrop, he had this town on a mountain in where they would just smoke a ton of hookah and just relax and talk about religion and stuff. I just got another comment about the natives. So when the Americans first came to England, the natives there, they weren't too happy that their lands were getting invaded and whatnot. So basically the Indians were like, hey, you can't have this land, and the Americans were like, we're gonna do whatever the fuck we want, we're Americans, go America. And so there were a lot of Indian rebellions and a lot of fighting. So eventually all the Indians got forced out of the land, and then we'll learn about that later with Jackson, how he was even more mean to them. Back to John Winthrop, with his city on a mountain. He came up with the idea of town meetings in Congress. You're welcome for the clarification, Liam Fisher. I hope that helped. So let's just take a short break and go into the presidents. I did prepare a little song to try and help the presidents with the help of my banjo / ukulele here. It's set to a popular tune. Maybe you can identify it. And I'm just gonna go into it. George Washington, John Adams, Tom Jefferson, James Madison, James Monroe, John Adams, Jackson, Van Buren, Henry Harrison, John Tyler, James Polk, Zach Taylor, Fillmore Pierce, James Buchanan, Abe Lincoln, Johnson, Grant, Hayes, Garfield, Chester, Arthur, Grover, Cleveland, Ben Harris, Grover, Cleveland again, Will McKinley, Teddy Roosevelt, Taft, Wilson, Harding, Calvin Coolidge, Herbert Hoover, Frank Roosevelt, Harry Truman, Dwight Eisenhower, John Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson. I'm sorry for my break. Someone just had a very rude comment. If you didn't like the song, that's all you had to say. But I do take requests, so if anyone wants any more, I can do that, but I'm very hurt by that comment. Fake bird, the real bird 17, I don't know who you are. Okay, so we're getting a lot of different people saying a lot of different mean comments, but we're just going to keep moving on to Metacom, also known as King Philip. So England made him a king of one of these little provincial cities, and he thought he was the shit because he was an Indian who was also a king. And so he was like to all his other Indian friends, like, hey, guess what? The English people made me a king, and that means I'm better than you. The real bird 17, thank you for the clarification. I hope you like the song. If you have any requests, I can take them if we want to do a little break in a half hour, maybe less. Anne Hutchinson, not the actress, was very important because she somewhat looked like a dude, but that's not important either. She was married to King Philip, and together they ruled the provincial town that I mentioned earlier. And she had a lot of rights on women, and she was just really the first of her kind to really do that. Next are the center colonies, and that's going to be New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. So what you really need to know with these centerfold colonies is that they practiced a lot of cultural diversity. They had all these different religions. They had the Puritans, they had the Anglicans, the Anti-Baptists, everything under the sun. Even the Mormons, they had the Mormons. So a big city in New York was New York. New York, New York. That's still a city today. So how that city was founded was with the first Dutch settlers, and where they came from, they were the first workers of the Dutch West India Company, and they carried the transactions over and all the trading to the New World. The Articles of Capitulation, that's how England eventually got control of that land in the New York region, along with a ton of the other centerfold regions. That's how England got the control from the Dutch, and the Dutch were never to be seen again in America. So this colony stuff isn't too important. We're just gonna keep moving on here to more later stuff. We're gonna move on to period 3, and now this is where America is forming its own identity and is telling the British people, "Hey, we don't really like you. We don't really like you in our shit." So someone asked me to go over the Treaty of Yeet McGeet. I don't believe that is a real treaty, but I think I don't know how to explain the Treaty of Yeet McGeet because that's not a real thing. But what I can explain is the Albany Congress in June 1954, and that was Ben Franklin's plan for union against the British, and he got together with some of his buddies and boys, and together they really just had a draft for what would later be the Declaration of Independence, and they were just saying like, "Hey, British people, you're just a bunch of meanies, and we don't want to be under control from you anymore." So they did that, but the king in England was like, "Hey, what's going on over there in America? I want control." And America's like, "Yeah, piss off, king." So the king, he had to send out a general, and there's about to be a lot of military involvement. I just got a comment from a loyalist. I'm really trying not to offend anyone with I'm just trying to represent an accurate portrayal of this history. So if you are offended, I apologize. All you loyalists out there, but go Confederacy. All right. Another comment from Blaze D. Open your textbooks. Actually, my textbook is wide open, and I'm staring at right in its eyes. So, if you don't want to watch this, you don't need to, Blaze D. Okay? How about you crack open your own review book and worry about your own stuff? Okay? Yeah. Back to the French and Indian War, also known as the 6, 7, or 8 Years' War. Don't get yourself confused with that. It can be any one of the three. So what really started out was this one guy named William Pittsburgh. He wanted to fight the French and Indians out of North America and push them all the way up to the North Pole, because no one can survive there and get out of America. So that went on for, you would say, 7 years, because that's the seven Years' War. I just got a request for another song. I don't know that many history songs. I can do my president's song again, but we will take a break, and I will take requests at that time. Back to the French and Indian War. So the British were fighting the Indian and the French, and America was still trying to find its own identity, but eventually that ended 7 years later in 1963 with the Peace of Paris, and Britain just basically got a whole lot of more control of the new continent. At this time, I will be taking calls, and the first caller is. Hello, first caller. How are you? There is a terrible echo, so unless you can turn that off, I will be hanging up. All right, and that concludes our list of callers. If anyone else would like to call in and not make a horrible echo and pierce my ears and those of my listeners, please do that. So, moving on from the French and Indian War, America at this time is still trying to find its new identity, but what's important is that there's a new king in England. Now, after a long succession of Georges, there's now going to be George IV. And what he did, he made his proclamation line. Oh, we are getting another call. We are going to answer this call. Hello, caller.
Hey, Stefano. What's going on?
So we have a caller, Nick Mecca. Everyone say hi to Nick.
Hello.
Do you have any questions, Nick? Anything you want to review?
Well, I heard you were going over the French and Indian War. I'm a little bit confused as to what the motives for that were.
So the Indians were still really pissed off at the British at this time. Your hair is very nice, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Creative username. I don't appreciate your comment on my polo. At the break, I will change, so you're not offended. Okay, back to motives of the French and Indian War. As I said, Britain at this time was, you're welcome, creative username. That's a great username, by the way. Britain was pissing off America and the Indians there, so they just really wanted to drive out the French. Anything you want to add to that, Nick? Say hi to them.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, that about sums it up, I think.
Well, you're welcome. I hope I answered your question. Do you have any requests?
Yeah, thank you. No, actually, yeah. The difference between the Virginia plan and the New Jersey plan.
By requests, I meant songs to sing, but I guess that's over. Goodbye. Okay, and that is the end of our caller list. This live stream is already going a little pretty too long, so we're just gonna try to truck through, really get through all the periods, and then review overall concepts that we're gonna need to know. Someone asked me to explain the treaty of the ban of butt stuff. That's inappropriate. That's strike one for you. If you do another inappropriate comment, you're going to get banned from this live stream. Someone requested that I list the presidents again. I found that to be a really helpful way to remember them. So again, we will sing our president's song, and before that, we're going to answer a question: is slavery good or bad? This age-old question. A strong supporter of George Fitzhugh would say it's better to be. Just remember, George Fitzhugh is going to be on the exam. I'm getting a lot of different requests. So, with George Fitzhugh, he said that it's better to be a slave in the South than a wage slave in the North. So, I'm not going to answer your question, was slavery good or bad? You have to figure that out yourself. But slavery was most definitely not a choice. Unless you wanted it to be. To the president's song. Okay, here we go. George Washington, John Adams, Tom Jefferson, James Madison, James Monroe, John Adams, Jackson, Van Buren, Madison, John Tyler, James Polk, Zach Taylor, Fillmore, and Pierce, James Buchanan, Abe Lincoln, John Sisgrant, and Garfield, Chester, Arthur, Grover, Cleveland, Penn, Harris, Grover, Cleveland again. Calvin Coolidge, Herbert Hoover, Frank Roosevelt, Harry Truman, Dwight D. Eisenhower, John Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson, Richard Nixon, and Reagan, George Bush, Bill Clinton, George W. Obama. And that is the President's Song. If anyone would like the lyrics, I can send those to you, and you can memorize those, and that's a lot of important information. We're going to read some comments that I got. Some people were saying about chicken tikka marsala to solve that problem. I do believe that chicken tikka marsala is a good food. That's enough with the presidential break. We're going to go back on to the review. So I believe we're on. Oh, and we will now be going back to our callers. Next caller. Hello, caller. Hello. He's taking a minute. Oh, you know what? His connection failed. He probably doesn't have good data. So someone asked, how do you... Oh, we're getting another call again. Hello, caller.
Howdy, partner.
And we have a caller, and it looks like it is...
Sorry, I'm out on the western frontier, and I ain't got no internet connection.
Oh my gosh, it is Sacagawea.
I'm Cowboy Jim.
Cowboy Jim, is that your name? Would you like to add anything on the Texas Revolution or the French-Indian War?
I'm from all the eras of America's expansion.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. Is there anything you could tell me on how to write a good essay?
No, but I was hoping that you could explain how America came to move out west.
Oh, what a great question, Cowboy Jim. So, with America moving out west, so a lot of people wanted to get new towns. They wanted gold, they wanted money, they wanted everything. So they just kept pushing out. Now this wasn't overnight. This was a slow process to get out west. They were looking for gold. They were looking for everything, Cowboy Jim. I think you should know that since you're a cowboy.
But here's the problem though, because I'm out trying to farm, and I got these banks trying to take my money. They're about to foreclose on my home.
Let me tell you something, Cowboy Jim. What you should be mad about is the president, Andrew Jackson. Now,
oh God.
Jackson was
Hold on, somebody's calling my home.
And we're getting a caller with the caller. Callerception. Isn't this incredible? Cowboy Jim, I'm going to ask you to return.
Hello? Hello?
Cowboy Jim?
Oh my God. Somebody thinks they're a little prankster.
Back to my explanation, Cowboy Jim.
It's definitely Jared.
Why the banks, why Andrew Jackson did not like the banks. He was afraid of the banks, and he actually outlawed people saying banks in the White House. So he took all the money out of the National Bank and put them into his little pet banks.
Are those similar to dogs and cats?
Very similar, Cowboy Jim.
That's what I thought.
A lot of people would argue that Jackson, this was a good thing that he did, but what do you think, Cowboy Jim? Did you appreciate this move by President Jackson, or do you think he was a total asswipe?
You know, I despise President Jackson, mainly because of my Indian friends and what he's done to them.
Really? You have some Indian friends?
Yes, because as a cowboy, I'm very close with the Indians, and they love me moving on to their land.
That's quite incredible, Cowboy Jim. To overcome the diversity between a white male such as yourself.
We found out who creative username is.
Well, that's very nice, Cowboy Jim. Is there anything else you would like to address the viewers with?
I'd like you to explain. Can we move to a more modern topic, maybe?
Of course. Would you like to go over some of the presidents in the period?
Sure. I'd like you to explain who the current president is right now.
That will not be covered on the AP exam. If you do not ask another relevant question, I'm afraid we're going to have to find a new caller.
Tell Ahmed I only have one device.
Goodbye. And that concludes our conversation with Cowboy Jim. What an interesting person. We've gotten a lot of requests on trying to explain the Whigs. So we're going to jump back a little bit in history here. And to help me assist with the Whigs and the Tories, we're going to have another caller call in. I believe he was just trying to call, but I guess he got disconnected, so we're going to have to do this one-on-one. Oh, he's calling again. We're getting a lot of calls. Hello, caller. Would you like to help? Oh. Would you like to help us explain the Whigs and the Tories? Caller?
Hello?
How's it going?
So, I'm actually, a Civil War vet, as you see, if we're still playing, what's it called? If we're playing acting.
Well, we are still playing acting. That will continue all through the night.
Okay, so,
And,
as you can see...
What is your name, sir?
My name is, Bucky Smiles.
Bucky Smiles. What a great name.
Okay, so, as you can see, I'm a black fighter in the Union. Can you explain to me what the significance of the Emancipation Proclamation was on, shifting the war?
Now, a lot of people might say the Emancipation Proclamation freed all the slaves, but that's not what it did, right? Cowboy, Buckeye, Smiles? Isn't that right? Bucky? I believe Bucky Smiles is not answering. So unless he answers, we're going to have to keep moving on.
Hello?
Hello, Bucky.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was losing connection there.
No problem. We were just talking about how the Emancipation Proclamation did not free the slaves.
It did not?
It did not.
Oh, I wasn't asking that, though. I'm saying, how did it shift perspective on the war? Mainly in European countries, maybe.
So with the European countries, this is where they really started shifting towards helping the Union and supplying them with ammunition, and they actually started seeing the South as evil at this point. Any more questions, Smiles?
No, thank you.
Well, anything you'd like to add to this live stream? Anything you want to address the audience with? Oh my gosh, it is Burrito.
All right, bye.
Fantastic. So it is almost around 30-minute mark where we're going to take a short break. And right before we take this break, we're going to have one more caller in.
Hi.
And it looks like it is Clark Lewis.
I'm Davy Crockett.
Davy Crockett. I am noticing there's an echo on your side, so if you want to shut off one device so it doesn't make that horrible sound.
So I'd like to talk about my role in allowing Mexico to conquer half the U.S.
Wow, that's quite incredible.
I was the last man standing at the Alamo, and I helped Mexico conquer half the U.S. territory.
You know what, Davey? I'm going to leave you here for a few seconds. I'm going to go take a relief. I will be right back. I'm going to put you right in front of the audience. If you could just
okay. Hi, audience.
Give your story, and I will be back right in a jiff. All right. Oopsies. And the floor is yours.
Okay. Hi, audience. I'll be currently taking requests from the comment section, so if I just could read a couple of these here. See, here's the thing. I'm out to conquer the Western frontier. I don't sing songs. I'm not a man of that, so I won't be doing that. Blaze wants to know about War of Roses. I'm trying to figure out the pun here. I don't know. Sorry. Let me see. So 10 people watching. Wow, this is more stressful than I thought. Let me see.
Alrighty, and we are back. How did that live stream go, Davey?
Not very well. I'm about to tell my story though, so just give me 1 second.
Well, can I just answer a question right quick? Creative username asked, what is the War of Northern Aggression? And to answer that question, that would also be known as the Civil War. You're welcome. I noticed there's a lot of beeps and boops coming from your side, Davey.
Okay, so here's my story. I was born on a mountaintop in Tennessee, the greenest state in the land of the free. I killed myself a bar when I was only 3. Davy, King of the Wild Frontier. No, I'm sorry. We have a caller. Oh boy, Linda's calling me. 1 second.
Well, Davey, thank you for
No, I have to
helping
call
out.
Back.
Davey?
Yeah, 1 second.
We're gonna have to go now.
No, wait, let me just call someone back. Ken? Yeah, hi.
Found your Citibank cash card in Mr. Flick's truck.
Who did?
I did. I found your Citibank cash card in Mr. Flick's truck.
And the plot thickens.
Okay. I don't know what that is. But
Davey, I'm afraid we're gonna have to move on.
If you can bring
I'm afraid we're gonna have to move on.
I'll pick it up.
Davey?
It says James F. Twist, M.D.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, I know what that is. Thank you. Actually, you can know. Is it the American
Davey, we
Express?
really need to get back to the live stream.
It's a city card, American Express.
Okay, Davey is gone. He will not be participating in this live stream anymore. We've had a lot of requests to move on to some more modern issues facing our current country. And get ready, it is almost 8 o'clock, and 8 o'clock means crunch time. How exciting. So, as we moved on, we've had some requests to come over some more modern things, such as Bill Clinton and the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. But before we explain that, we're going to take another caller. We're getting a lot of calls, and the phones are particularly busy.
Okay.
Hello.
I'm here. You see, I have my Mahatma Gandhi, I have my Buddha. I have my orb of confusion. I'm part of the counterculture. Can you explain the counterculture's effect on America, and under which president did it end?
Of course I can. So what we need to know with the counterculture is that at this time a lot of teenagers and people of the New World were trying to go against societal norms. And that basically accumulated around Woodstock in 1969, where a lot of hippies gathered and they had a huge music festival. I can perform a few songs if we want any requests from them. But again, I'm getting swarmed with calls, so we're going to try to keep that one every 5 minutes. So now that we've gone over counterculture, some more with that. Someone requested a Bob Dylan song. We will be taking requests and doing songs at a later time. We do have a lot more to go over, and this live stream is approaching its end. So back to answering the question about counterculture. A main thing we're going to need to know about that is the SDS and all these different free speech movements. So what the SDS was the Students for Democratic Society. They really wanted to get rid of violence and racism out of the country, something that was like really new for the time, and that was important because at the time there was like a lot of segregation, a lot of racism, Also, anyone who is asking questions, I will get to them. I am seeing all of your questions being typed. It's popping right up. And as soon as I'm answering the one before, I will get to them. So back to counterculture. Again, this is taking place in the 1960s. Another big part of that was Marco Savio, and he was smuggling workers over from Mexico, and he was giving them jobs in the new world. Okay, so we've gotten a lot of requests for a question. It got 5 up arrows by 3 different people, and the question is 4 up arrows. Where did that kid Dylan Joseph go? That's the real mystery of the year. And if it's my correct assumption, he did go to Orchard Park. You're welcome. So, some other main things that we're going to need to know for the exam tomorrow is how to write a good essay. Now, I know that there is a ton of rubrics out there, but with the document-based question, the real important thing is having a good thesis. In your thesis, you want to have because, and you want to establish your main paragraphs. All right, we had some more irrelevant comments, but to get back to the DBQ, the first thing you should do is really just sort them out and put them into different paragraphs. Now, I know that was a lot more solid, but in the coming years, that's more open to interpretation on how you want to sort those out. Pardon me. So with 3 of those documents, you're going to have good synthesis with them, either explaining the point of view from the author. Someone just tried to say that using because in your theses is crap. I would say that you're crap and you will get banned from this live stream because is the most important thing. And if you wanted to know, all AP graders are looking for that because in the theses, so that's very important. At this time, we're taking another call.
So that's very important. At this time, we're taking another call.
All right, and we got Davey back on the line. Hello, Davey.
Hi, I just have a couple last-minute important reminders for the exam, just some tips and tricks to succeed.
Go ahead, Davey.
Okay, so as you're all aware, I hope you're well read up on the important themes and periods of the course. I hope you know the structure of the exam as we've been going over it for the past 2 weeks. Are you familiar with that stuff now?
That's right, Davey.
Another thing, be sure that you have the numbers of the documents in parentheses after each paragraph on the DBQ because that's definitely something that the AP graders want you to do.
Now, just one question. Even if you do put it after a quotation or just you're explaining it, do you still need to put it at the end of the paragraph, Davey?
Huh?
If you already have it in the middle of a paragraph...
No, you should do it just for good measure so that they know what you're looking for.
I think we should all take in consideration that important information that Davey said.
Okay, and also be sure when you get into the auditorium that you take a seat as soon as possible.
That's not nearly as important as the previous things you mentioned, but yes, be sure to take a seat.
It is important to take a seat, though.
Would you like to go over the court cases, Davey?
If you'd like to move this discussion on, sure.
One court case that I found particularly interesting was Gibbons versus Ogden. Do you think you could go over that?
Oh, that's right. The train case. So basically there's this train, and it's trying to cross over the Atlantic Ocean from Manhattan all the way over to Saudi Arabia. And the issue was basically that we didn't know how to regulate Atlantic trade. So in Gibbon versus Ogden, we said, we're going to give all that power to Somalia.
Davey, I'm going to have to stop you right there. A couple of commenters have, more than 3 have said that what you're saying is false in all caps.
Well, here's the thing. They're part of a conspiracy against American history. See, we teach the real American history on this channel. So...
Davey, may I inquire, is that a shotgun bullet in your hand? I'm just going to put you up to subscribers.
It is a shotgun bullet, and I have several more that I took right out of my rifle.
Well, that's very interesting, Davey. As much as I would like to chat about your shooting experiences, someone did ask. I'm gonna try to get that comment back up. I think they asked about the McCullough versus Maryland.
Yes, I can explain that.
Case.
So in McCullough versus Mulberry, there were 3 kids basically found a mulberry bush in their yard.
Oh.
And the issue was, it was basically over Federalist power, but the issue was,
Davey, I'm going to have to cut you off there because there's a long list of callers, so we will talk to you shortly. Hello, caller.
Hello, caller.
Now, an issue that's been going on is that you have an echo, so would you please turn that off? Thank you. Thank you for turning the echo. So, what is your name?
My name is Mary Beth.
Mary Beth. Great name.
Yes. I had a question about the relevance of the Texan Revolution.
Very well.
Can you explain it for me?
Yes. So, as we know, the Texas Revolution took place in Texas, and what was very interesting about the Texas Revolution is that they actually declared to be their own country, and
from the U.S. or Mexico?
From both. So
wait, no, I don't think.
Now, the important thing behind that was that Texas was a country by itself for 9 years. Now, I don't think a lot of people know that, but you're just one of the few who were enlightened about it. Is there any tips or tricks that you would like to add in coming for the AP exam?
I think for the multiple choice, you should not spend too much time on a question, but also I would try to the best of your ability, try to go through every question in each section before you move on to the next passage, because then you're going to have to reread the passage, and that will take time. That's
very insightful tips. Thank you, Mary Beth.
No problem.
I think that just about concludes our live stream. I do notice that a commenter named Sam Rizzo has joined, and I am just honored that he joined this live stream. Someone asked, should you be doing the DBQ first? Johnny is gone, so I'm going to answer that question for you. To answer that question, should you do the DBQ first? That is entirely up to you. You need to find out what works best for you, whether you think you should do the long essay or the DBQ. I would say whichever one you're stronger in, that's what you should do first. So if we don't have any more callers or any more questions, I think that about wraps up our live stream, and we do have one more caller. We're going to take that. Hello, Davey. Davey is back again.
Hi, I've got my pet squirrel with me.
He's got his pet squirrel.
So, I was thinking about a couple more tips to succeed. I was hoping that you'd let me share them.
Of course, Davey.
Oh, wait, but first I wanted to play a little video clip, my favorite song.
Of course.
The drums run tumbling everywhere.
Are you familiar with the singer?
So beware.
Sounds very familiar. It's a really good voice that he has.
We'll be over, we're coming over, and we won't come back till it's over there. Next verse, Felter, ready?
Okay.
Get your gun. I remember that song.
Yeah, pretty good song. Now, let me just pull up these tips and tricks here. I'm just looking at the comment. Oh my god.
Someone asked if you recorded that without their permission.
No, I can assure you that I had your consent to do that.
So again, this live stream is just about wrapping up, as we've been going on for 45 minutes now. Are we going to try to hit that 1 hour mark and have a celebration? What do you want to do? We are getting another caller, a brand new caller.
No.
Davey, we will be right back. Hello, caller.
Oh, hello, Stefano.
Welcome to the live stream. Do you have any questions or anything you want to add? Any tips that
I have some questions on immigration. What era did immigration begin to be restricted?
That is a very stupid question, and he will not be on the live stream anymore. So that about wraps it up. If we want to go over the Zara of good feelings really quickly before we end this live stream on a good note. We're getting another caller. Hello, Nick. Nick is back.
Hello. I just have one request before I go.
Of course. What's that, Nick?
I would love to hear the President's song one more time before the end of this live stream.
I think that would be a good idea on how to end this live stream. So thank you, Nick. Thank you for that request. Any tips or tricks that you would like to add before we go? Any last minute?
Yes. 2 things. Take a seat and make sure to fill in on the answer sheet first name and then last name.
That's very important. Thank you.
Okay.
We're gonna go now, Nick. Thank you for calling in.
Of course. Thanks.
Good luck. So, and one last tip that I would say is do not wait to fill in your answer sheet, because if you do not finish that, they will rip it out of your hands and you will cry. Last caller.
Okay, I have one more trick. It's not really a tip for the test. It's more of just a way to have fun on the test.
And what's that, Davey?
So it pertains to the essay section. You are familiar. There are a few written sections on this test.
Yes, Davey.
Yes, there are 4 long essays. Very good. And you will not have a choice. So basically...
Are you sure about that, Davey?
So you
Davey?
know that if you make a mistake, you just cross it out, right? Okay. And that cannot be graded by the AP graders. They can read it, but they can't grade it. So that gives you the ability to write anything you want, pretty much.
Very
you can
interesting.
tell the AP grader anything you want, but it can't affect the score of your essay. So
what you're saying is to write anything you want and then cross it out.
Right. And they can't use that to score it. So you can write all the compliments about your teacher right there if you'd like.
Interesting. So just get out any things that you want to say about your teacher, whether they are addicted to a certain type of food or they have any tendencies to do in class, but
careful.
I wouldn't really know anything about that. Well, thank you, Davey. Thank you for adding to our live stream.
Another topic, a way to kind of de-stress in the exam.
We are getting another call, but we're not going to answer because we really need to.
Who is it? Who is it?
It was Blaze.
Oh, Aiden, you mean?
Yes. Any last minute remarks, Dave?
Yeah. So, I mean, what's the scariest picture you have in your mind of Colonel?
That is an inappropriate question, and I think we need to go now.
No. Okay, you remember? You can picture yourself shooting at him at center ice.
I think that's the good final tip to add.
Yeah,
if you are ever nervous, just picture your Colonel on center ice. And thank you, Davey. Thank you for all the helpful
You're welcome.
info.
I have to return to my other identity now.
Well, I will see you later. Thank you, Davey.
Bye-bye.
And that about wraps it up. I hope you learned something. Is what I'm getting requested, but I hope you really learned something from this video. So without further ado, we will sing our President's song one more time. Hopefully you know the lyrics by now. And then I'm going to let you guys study by yourself, and I hope you have good luck on the exam. So here we go. George Washington